This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is the Fast Break Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Alongside me, as always, is Ricky Widmer.
What's up, guys?
And Dave Oster.
Hey, everybody.
And today we have a 4-topic show for you. We are talking Jimmy Butler going off at practice with third stringers. We got Ryan McDonough being fired by the Phoenix Suns. We have DeJounte Murray's season-ending ACL tear. And wrapping it up with rookie expectations. That one is my topic, my choice. If it bombs, then blame me. If it exceeds and does great,
thank me.
Then thank me.
No, thank Dave.
Yeah, thank Dave. There you go. Thank Dave. He's the mastermind behind picking all these topics. But I think it's going to be fun. We're going to go through the top big names, at least top 10 or whatever, and just give some expectations, some stat lines, because people love stat lines. People love storylines. It's going to be a good time. But before we jump into that, we're going to tell you one thing to do. Rate us on iTunes. I think we're at 39 reviews for the Fast Break Podcast. So if you can get us to 40, 45, we would be greatly appreciative of that. So if you have not rated us on iTunes, head over to iTunes, type in the Fast Break Podcast. You should see our logo. Give us a 5-star rating. We would greatly appreciate it. We'd love the support. And let's jump in to the podcast. We're going to talk a little bit briefly about Jimmy Butler and the practice incident that occurred. I believe it was on Tuesday. So Butler, if you haven't heard, shows up to practice after missing, I think, like 3 weeks, comes in, absolutely dominates, is swearing at the Wolves GM like, this is why you effing need me, and apparently he took the third stringers and beat the first stringers, and he was going after Cat, he was going after Wiggins, and then he talked with Rachel Nichols after, and he just said he wants to be appreciated. It's not about, his teammates, it's about the front office and the way they're treating him. So looking at this outburst from Jimmy Butler, what were your guys' immediate thoughts, and how do you think this really translates to the possible trade of him going out of Minnesota?
I mean, bravo, first off, for the planned media session post, the FU practice. That took a little bit of coordination. I don't disagree with his tactics, though, because, it came out in that meeting that he told Tibbs 4 days after the season ended how he felt. So you had the entire summer to work with Jimmy, help him feel like he is the guy on the team, resolve his unhappy feelings, and yet it's all the way we're a week before the season starts at this point, and he's obviously not happy. He's verbally, publicly talking about this, and you're still not doing anything. So I think he's totally in the right. I think he absolutely was in the clear, and I think it was a kind of a telling story that he went out there, beat down the starters with the third stringers, and the fact that people were laughing about it is sad on two parts. The fact that you got beat by third stringers shows where's your level of commitment, where's your level of effort on one end, but from the outside, it's what the fuck is going on here?
Well, I will say,
it's practice. I shouldn't read too much.
It was practice, and Jimmy Butler was clearly motivated to do something crazy, and Cat and Wiggins could just be out there being like, what the hell is going on? And then just, lose that way. We don't know how by much or whatever. But still, it's a bad story just on the surface. Yeah. Ricky, what were your thoughts?
Well, I mean, for me right away, there's kind of two. I've got two Rickies, one on each shoulder.
We know you have two Rickies.
There's one that is yes, the drama, I love it. Comes out, basically is F you. It kind of reminded me, and I'm not making a direct comparison. I have to say that because everyone on YouTube thinks you make a direct comparison. But when Dave's oh yeah, beat him with the third stringers, it kind of reminds me of Dream Team, where it's Chuck Daly would be oh yeah, by the way, you're winning. All right, we're going to switch the best player on the team, Jordan, over to the other team. And then the team would usually win. Kind of reminded me of that. All right, the T-Wolves' best player is Jimmy. He's going to make that side go, especially with Cat and Wiggins, how he's unhappy with them because of their effort. But then there's the side of me that's all right, Jimmy, I know this is strategic, where it's hey, I want to tank my trade value for other teams besides, because the Clippers and Heat are not going to care about this. If he gets traded to Miami, I'll say them because they were the closest to get a deal done. He goes to Miami, this is not going to affect him in Miami because of what they have there. Pat Riley, who wants to win, Eric Spoelstra is the coach. This isn't going to be something, when I see hurt his trade value, it's it doesn't hurt with the Clippers and the Heat, but it might hurt it with an outside team being like, do we want to give up that many assets for Jimmy?
Real quick, where did you see he tanked his trade value, or is that a thought of your own?
That's a thought of my own.
Okay, why do you think he hurt his trade value?
No,
because I'm on the opposite side.
I'm saying with teams that he doesn't want to go to, there might be. I'll throw the Bulls out there. I know the Bulls aren't a team because we traded them.
Hypothetical,
but we'd probably take it back.
If it's a team like the
Bulls, for Butler straight up.
Why would a team go? We're on the outside of his list. Why would I give up assets for this? It would kind of turn off a team that is not in his list of teams that might be willing, like a Blazers, might be willing to give up assets for a Jimmy Butler. But when it comes to the Clippers and the Heat, it didn't hurt his trade value because those teams know what they're getting, and they have guys like Jerry West and Pat Riley instilled in those organizations.
With what you're saying, I don't think it really – I think saying taking his trade value is the wrong thing to say.
Hurting his trade value.
I don't think it's hurting it, though, either. I think it's just shrinking the teams that would trade for him. But I also think this would – if I was a GM, this would increase my interest. Because not only is he
even
clearly
if you were
fighting –
outside of the, let's say, top four?
If I'm a team like the Nuggets, because I think the top four is probably the Clippers, the Heat, Houston I know is trying to get a deal, and we'll just use the Knicks just to make sure, whatever. We don't know where the Nuggets are, but let's just say the Nuggets are outside because we haven't really heard much about them, but they would be a much improved team, and they'd be winning if they added Jimmy Butler. If I am, the Nuggets, I love this kind of thing because, one, it just means they want to get him out quicker. If he's actually going to do this all the time, he's going to, be a nuisance on the floor and attack our players and then also attack us. Like, we don't want this guy around. And I think that was Jimmy's sole purpose was, all right, I am going to tell you to trade me. I'm going to scream at you. I'm going to ruin your practices. I'm going to make all of your practices about me. So just trying to burn all of his bridges in Minnesota. I think it's a smart thing if he does want to get traded. But also with the Nuggets, it's going to make it them easier to make a deal with the Timberwolves, who apparently have been horrible to make a deal with. There was one thing, I don't know if it's a substantiated rumor or not. The Timberwolves and Heat were very close to making a deal, and then right before they were about to agree, Tibbs started asking Riley for more draft picks, and then I think Pat Riley hung up the phone and screamed "motherfucker" and rage. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I could totally see it happening with all the rumors that are coming out.
They said today on Highly Questionable, they said bleeper, but motherfucker.
I just think that, again, it's going to make it easier to trade for him. So that's going to at least fight up the competition for the teams that are in for him. So it's kind of increasing his trade value. And also, I love this. Why wouldn't you want a guy like this? I know I've been critical of Kawhi Leonard before. I've been critical of Jimmy Butler as well for being a locker room cancer. But this was kind of what I was saying when we first did this about 3 weeks ago, was that he wants to be the guy on the team. And seeing Wiggins get that much money, 5 years, $147 million, seeing Karl-Anthony Towns get 5 years, $190 million, obviously, he's not going to be their number one priority, even if he re-signed with them, because those guys are younger, so they're going to have a longer career in Minnesota, and they have more control over him. So him doing this clearly wants him being out. It validates my reason and thinking why he wants to be around there. He wants to be validated and be seen as the number one guy. But then also, it's showing his competitive side. And if he wants to win this badly, it is going to extremely help my team. And then you also got to look what the Timberwolves were last year with Jimmy Butler. They were a great team. Without him, they were not. So it's pretty simple. Jimmy Butler is going to help your team. And I think his attitude is a large part of that. So even if he is injured, even if he's not on the floor, if he's happy, he is going to be a major plus to your team. So if I'm a team that's outside, but not too far out like the Bulls, I would increase my interest in Jimmy Butler after this, because I don't think if he's going to be happy, he's going to be doing things like this that are going to be negatively hurting the team. Because last year he wasn't really negatively hurting the team, even if he was unhappy. It came out after the season.
Right. But the question is, will he be happy? Because with the Clippers and Heat, I think he would be. On a team like, you throw the Nuggets out there, but a team that might be in a similar situation like the T-Wolves, that might have younger talent or may not have that veteran presence in their GM and coaching spot, it's kind of a question mark to me whether he'll be happy.
I think the most telling statement from the interview with Rachel Nichols was, my number one priority is to win. If your number one priority isn't to win, we have a problem. And that statement alone, when he wasn't naming names, and I know we all knew who he was talking about, but when he's talking about guys going out trying to get their numbers, worrying about themselves, that's not how you run a locker room. That's not how you play basketball. That's not how you win games, go towards the championship. That's the wrong attitude to have. He has the right attitude. If I'm Pat Riley, I'm all right, I really want this guy now. Anyone in the league should be like, I've got a team of guys who want to win badly. That's the number one priority in this locker room. We don't have any divas in here. We don't have anyone who's out to get for themselves. Like, that right there meant the most to me as an outsider. Hearing him say that, I was like, yep, this guy's legit. It's not, him beefing with younger guys over, like, little things here and there. It's legitimate attitude problems that they're displaying on the court, off the court. Like, there's no getting past that.
Yeah, and I think, when we've seen outbursts from Jimmy Butler, the end of Chicago, the end of Minnesota, he wasn't really feeling like he was the number one guy in Chicago because obviously he was fighting a little bit with D-Rose. It wasn't really a question on the court-wise, but obviously D-Rose had the fan adoration clearly, and I think it was tough for him to really see that. And then when D-Wade came over, that was a winner. He was probably hearing stories of all these winning times. And Fred Hoiberg, while the team did end up making the playoffs, they weren't going to win anything. And I think he kind of saw the writing on the walls.
We should have beat the Celtics. I'm just going to say that.
Okay, would you have beaten Golden State?
No.
Okay, so my point stands.
I'm just saying we would have won something.
I don't care. But like the thing is like the thing is that like he wasn't going to see that himself winning a ring in Chicago. I don't blame him. So now it makes his at least motivations a little more clear, and I think that at least as a GM makes it easier for me because my point and my job is to make this team win. So if I am doing my job correctly, Jimmy Butler will be happy. Jimmy Butler can sign long-term with this team. And again, we can have Jimmy Butler for the next 5 years on our team if he does end up re-signing. And he's going to clearly help our team for the next 3 years and help us win.
See, I'm on the other side. If you are, and I'm going to say it again, if it's not the Heat, not the Clippers, I'll throw the Rockets in there too. If you're not a team in those three, I would be sitting there going, I'm a little worried because even think about when he came over with the Wolves. The press conference, I'm happy to be here. I can't wait to be here. Gave out his cell phone number for fans to call him.
That's pretty cool.
And it's like how quickly things have turned from great to bad. I would be sitting there going, am I going to give up a ton of assets to risk that happening to us if he is not happy this year, next year?
If you are a stable organization, you should be fine trading for Jimmy Butler, and those are my thoughts. You look at Timberwolves before he got there, they weren't making the playoffs. He comes, they were making the playoffs, and it just looked like if he probably looked at it from the outside, if he wasn't on this team, they wouldn't be making the playoffs.
100%.
As fair as that. And like Dave was saying, it doesn't seem like Cat and Wiggins are really in that stage of their career to be like, all right, I'm dedicated to winning only. They're trying to still figure their way in the league and also make a name for themselves so they can increase their revenue. And if you can increase your revenue at 22, it's going to make you a much easier sell when you're 28. So, and especially if you keep performing on the floor. So, anyways, those are my thoughts on Jimmy Butler. Any final thoughts on Butler? I think it just makes it easier to trade him, and I think the Wolves need to do it as soon as possible, and it seems like they're not going to do that.
And the last thing I would say is you kind of touched on it, and this could probably be the biggest part of it, is you look at the ages. I'm going to throw Cat, Wiggins, and Butler out there. Butler's 29. He's in that mode where I'm in my prime. I want to win before I get out of my prime, whereas Wiggins and Cat, it's like, we're 22, 23. We're not even in our prime yet. We're not even thinking about rings right now. Because even like with LeBron, we see that same kind of over his career, that same story of like the stat king and like the king. Then later on when he got older, when he was in his prime, I want to win championships, goes to Miami to do so. Then comes back, I'm going to do it for my city when he's even older than that. So it's kind of a similar thing, I would say, in that of like Cat and Wiggins aren't really thinking about that trophy, where Jimmy Butler, that's all he can think about.
I disagree with the LeBron thing. I don't want to get too much into it, but basically, I mean, even though he was putting up crazy numbers, they were also like number one in the East, like even before 2007. So, I mean, he just didn't have a team to win around him. I think he got taste of that super young and super early. So his vision kind of changed. I think he always kind of had that vision. If he was going to be the greatest of all time, he needed to start.
And he
winning
wasn't
rings.
the guy who sacrificed his numbers. If you remember, like the Heat, it was Wade and Bosh whose numbers went down pretty dramatically. So, like, I'm not 100% on that, but I think the point is that if you're like Sean said, if you're a stable organization and if you feel like your superstar or your team is aligned right now to compete and they're all in, then it's 100% go. Like, there's no reason that like a team like Miami wouldn't pull the trigger on this. I don't think that.
Well, it seems like they're trying to. It seems like Minnesota's not.
Well, Thibodeau get in the way,
right?
And how long will it be?
Yeah, I agree. I think that Miami's clearly the ones. We'll see if they can finish it. We'll see if Thibodeau is still employed.
Yeah. Well, and I think
I'm wondering if they're
he's not going to be.
No, as the
GM.
president of basketball operations.
I don't think so.
If he'll be removed as that before he's removed as a coach.
I think when he gets fired, he gets fired.
Okay.
I think they're just going to get rid of all of it, and I think it's going to be soon, especially if he's not dealt.
Yeah,
I think serious action is going to change because if this keeps happening to the Timberwolves, it's going to be a bad look for the owner. He's going to need to have to change something. You're not getting the job done, Tom Thibodeau. You need to be canned. And obviously that's going to be a horrible look right before the season, but you can change that by winning and by putting investments into these young players. And also, I personally have the belief that I don't think Tom Thibodeau is going to take this team into their next evolution or revolution or whatever. I think Tom Thibodeau is going to be a very brief era in Minnesota. Final thing too, I think it's kind of like more of Jimmy Butler than to a LeBron James of what they're going through. Because Jimmy had to make sure that he was finding a stable spot in the NBA, go from a guy who was drafted last of the first round, build up to get a starting spot on the Bulls.
He wasn't a number one pick.
He was dominating himself as a number one player, and then also prove that he can be an all-star. Like Jimmy had much more of a closer come up to Cat and Wiggins rather than a LeBron James.
The way I should have worded it is that LeBron finally learned how to win in Miami. Like that's when he learned how to win.
But that's also because of his teams.
Yeah, I know. And then he took that to Cleveland and then won.
Zunis O'Gausters and Drew Gooden on that team. Anyways, let us know your thoughts. And who else? Darius Miles, I think, was on the team. Let us know what your thoughts on the Jimmy Butler. And thank you. That's what I was thinking. Delonte was. Let us know your thoughts on the Jimmy Butler situation. Where do you think he's going to get traded to? Do you think Tom Thibodeau should be fired anytime soon? Do you think Jimmy Butler was in the wrong? I personally love this move from Jimmy Butler. I think it was baller as hell. But let us know your thoughts in the comments down below.